to
our podcast.
Yeah.
Amigos 3
which people had questions about where the origins of that name came from. So
it doesn't have any really, like, significance.
Right.
It just kind of...
Okay, so when we all were in the same club and we needed a Kahoot name, and originally we were going to do Amigos 3 The Three Amigos. It doesn't sound right going forward now. But for some reason, we did it backwards once, and it just kind of stuck.
I think it's because Kahoot wouldn't recognize the name if we did it regular, so we had to do it backwards, and it just kind of became normal.
Us. Yeah, so that's how...
That's like our competition name.
Exactly. So welcome to the competition.
We're here to win.
Amigos 3 The. Okay, so...
That's our podcast name.
Exactly. And now that we got that covered, we can actually go into what today's episode is about, the very first episode. Mm-hmm. So originally, we were going to do the classic Junior, which we mentioned in the introduction. But today, because it's spooky season... We're going to be watching
a Halloween movie.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying, scary. Everyone was cringing away. Today we are going to be reviewing Twilight.
Woo! Yes, we've been gone for a long time, but the wait was well worth it because it's Twilight.
It's Twilight. Who doesn't love Twilight?
Vampires,
a lot of people,
werewolves.
Actually. So if you haven't seen Twilight, well, spoiler alerts, we're going to tell you the entire plot.
Yes, so that's, but it's been out long enough. I mean, if you didn't want spoilers.
Yeah, it was out since I was literally, born, so let's get into it. So basically, it's about this young woman, extremely pale, that was living in Arizona, and because her mom loves, her hubby, her new hubby, they were like, I'm gonna move around, and so she's living with her father now in Forks, Washington, which is a small hodink town, and, she makes friends along the way. Well, not even friends. They kind of hated each other.
Yeah, it's a very weird relationship.
Right. So they become friends, and she realizes she's kind of falling for this guy, right? Turns out this mother trucker's a vampire. Mm-hmm. That's right, blood-sucking kind. But don't worry, people. He's a vegan. He only eats animal blood, okay? So one day, they're like, you know what? Let's go play baseball. And they do. And basically, these three bad guys, the ones that actually suck human blood, was like, we're going to hunt Bella down and, kill her. And so Edward, the vampire, being extremely protective, is like, we gotta protect her, we gotta do whatever. And eventually, she's saved from in a ballet studio. Because, oh crap, these vampires have special abilities.
Yes,
Edward can read minds, but Bella's is empty, so, he can't read her mind. His sister Alice, adopted.
They're like,
I feel like I explained this terribly.
No, it's good. It's good.
Anyways.
It's about a girl who falls in love with a vampire and then has to adapt to the vampire lifestyle.
Exactly. And she almost dies. She gets bit, but don't worry. Because just like a rattlesnake, Edward sucked that venom right out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, they're at prom
like the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then, basically, she's like, bite me. And he's like, no. And the credits roll. So,
and this is the first movie out of 5.
5, because Breaking Dawn is 2 parts.
So, our podcast today is going to talk about the characters, the plot, what we thought about it, if you should watch it or not.
All that stuff. Basically, we watched it so you don't have to, but if it sounds good, then sis, get on Netflix. I actually don't know what it's on, but...
I think they put them all on Netflix again.
Really? Then
they had them on, they took them off, and then everybody was like, I love Twilight now, so then they bring it back.
Right, which is ironic, because the reason I thought this was a good idea was because it's so heavily disliked.
Yes.
But, okay, speaking of dislike, let's talk about our opinions.
Yeah,
so,
because we all came in with kind of our own idea of what the movie was going to be like.
Right, except I knew exactly what I was getting into. I've read the book, but, Martha and Taylor had absolutely no clue going into this.
I've watched the movie years ago, but don't remember anything from it.
Okay, so all of us have different opinions. Taylor, take it away. Tell us what you thought.
I don't know. I haven't watched the movies in a while. I watched them with my mom because moms are somehow the biggest Twilight fans ever.
Right. Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
I just stopped watching it when I was 8.
Right. So you
because I
didn't
thought
have,
it
like,
was bad for an 8-year-old. I was like, this is so cringy.
Oh, no. Oh God. Okay. Well, we love that.
Expectations were lowered.
Literally. So, okay. What, like, out of 10, how would you rate this movie?
Like how you watch it today.
And be completely honest. Like, you're not gonna hurt anyone's feelings.
4.
A 4 out of 10.
That's actually better than I thought.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna be like 0.
So, yeah.
So, Martha, why don't you describe how you felt about this movie?
Okay, I went in with like a open opinion.
Yeah,
like
like,
I
you were
didn't
very
hate it, but I
open-minded.
didn't love it. And
Right.
so I think after seeing it today in a different setting with people around and interpreting the movie, I would give it a 6 out of 10.
You know what? That's a decent rating.
A 6
honestly.
out of 10.
I agree. That's pretty fair.
Yeah. And I think that can change with the more movies and maybe if I start reading the books.
Right. So it's like maybe once we get a little more advanced into this, then we can always come back and review because, you know, we're
Exactly.
just like...
Because we're going to make this a whole series, baby.
Right. Exactly. So
Nicole.
I came into this knowing exactly what to expect. I mean, the girls came over. I already had the movie loaded in my DVD player. The typical, you know, teenage.
That's true.
So, if I were to rate this movie, I would probably give it, I don't know, a solid, 6 out of 10 is a good rating. Because you know what? It's not
It
the
leaves
best,
room
but
for
it's
error,
not
I feel
the
like.
worst.
Yeah.
So, 6 out of 10, solid, which...
I feel like each category of the movie can be ranked on its own.
It really
in a
could.
way.
So, let's talk about the characters.
So I guess we should explain each one and then the actor who plays the character.
Right. Okay, so, should we start with Edward?
Yes.
The most iconic Edward. So he's obviously the vampire. His whole family's a vampire. But anyways, he's the vampire because Bella falls head over heels for this man, and he is like 108.
Mm-hmm.
He's older now, but back when they made movies, 108. He lacks emotion, especially in the movie. The book is different. I'll get into that. But how would you explain him, Taylor? How would you explain Edward?
I don't know.
He's quiet. He's definitely quiet and reserved, which I think made him more mysterious. So all of the girls really love him.
Yeah.
And, of course, this was played by Robert Pattinson.
Yes. Robert Pattinson, if you don't know, if you're like DC fan, is a new Batman.
Yep.
He's in The Lighthouse.
He's in Good Time, and he's also in Devil All the Time.
Yes.
So if you ever
and
heard
Harry
of those
Potter.
movies- Oh, Harry Potter, Cedric. Yeah, Cedric.
Yeah.
So, yeah, check that. Yeah. Let's talk about his acting in this film. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't as bad as Bella.
Yeah. Oh, a lot better.
I feel like I've watched a lot of interviews for this movie, and he hates Edward.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Robert hates like how he was portrayed in this movie.
yeah, so from his interviews, he came into this kind of like just thinking Edward was depressed, which kind of comes across in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that, I don't know, I feel like he's able to make it feel natural, unlike other actors that we'll talk about.
Wink.
But remember that just because they had one bad movie does not mean that their entire career is trash.
Yes. So I think a theme that we'll come to see is that the movie did really bad for all of the actors' abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Because any other movie you see them in, you're like, wow, they're actually kind of good.
Yeah, literally. So, I definitely, if you have a bad opinion of Robert Pattinson, go watch one of those movies that we recommended, because those are actually bussin'. So,
yeah, they're very good. Or watch, like, any edit of him online.
Yeah.
Like, I love him.
Interviews, he's great. So, let's talk about Alice, which is...
So, yeah, Edward has, like, a family of, like, adopted
vampires, which they are named the Cullens.
Mm-hmm. Alice is, so unlike Edward, where his superpower is reading people's minds, Alice can, like, predict the future.
Right.
And she's nice. She's more open to the possibility of having, Edward having a girlfriend that's not a vampire. But, like, she's still open to the possibility that this might not work out.
Right. So she still has her doubt.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I totally agree. She's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
They say that she's weird, but in reality, she's just, like, unique.
Yes.
You know? I like her. She's very kind to everybody, I feel like. And, yeah, just a lot of people hate her just because she's quote-unquote weird. Yeah. But I feel like she's a good character. And, of course, she's in love with the constipated Jasper, which, which I have to say, he's exactly what he is in the book. So,
Really?
he just looks constipated, in pain constantly. So, I'm not going to knock the actor, which I don't know what his name is. I'll look that up right now. But, honestly, I feel like he did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially
He doesn't
what the
have a
role
whole lot of
was.
screen time in this movie, to be honest, but the actor does a good job at portraying his personality.
Yeah. Which is
By
interesting.
standing there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
He only said like 2 lines,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Mhm.
Pretty much. I think it's
Oh,
like
Jackson
Alex.
Rathbone.
Oh.
Alex.
Never mind.
Yeah, so his name is Jackson
Okay.
Rathbone. I've never seen him in anything else.
Me either.
However,
After this, he just didn't need to be in anything else. Or like.
Oh, I literally don't think he's ever been in anything else.
Oh, really?
Good for him, honestly. So, good on you. Oh, we should describe Jacob, because he is one of the leads.
So we have Edward and Edward's family with his brothers, sisters, mom and dad.
Right.
And then we have Jacob Black.
So basically, he is not relevant in this movie.
Yeah.
But he's Bella's dad's friend's son, which they just happen to be childhood friends, which I don't even think that she remembered him in the book. That's not how they met in the book, by the way. In the movie, it's different. So, but I'm not gonna be one of those people, I swear. I'm just trying to explain.
No, it's good.
But, Jacob later is going to be a werewolf. Spoiler alert. But he obviously has a crush on Bella. And he's played by Taylor Lautner. And if you don't know who that is, then just watch Lava Boy and Shark Girl.
Exactly.
Lava Boy, Lava Girl, and
Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Thank you. So, yeah. His most iconic role, honestly.
Of course.
I love it.
Even better than Jacob. Like, way better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Shark Boy would tear up
And George
Jacob.
Lopez is in it, right?
Yeah, he's the bad guy. Go watch that. We'll probably do a review on that soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's...
yeah.
Yeah.
I said
Oh,
like
yeah. Okay, so maybe we
Werewolves.
should talk about Charlie.
Okay, yeah. So now we're going to talk about the main character, Bella, and her family.
So, okay, basically... This is gonna be out of order, but whatever. So basically, another character that's incredibly important to this plot line is Charlie Swan, which is Bella's dad. So, yeah, he has a sick Magnum PI mustache. He's fantastic. If I could rate him on the dad scale, I'd probably give him like a solid 7.
He's he knows his boundaries.
Right.
But he's still involved.
Yeah, to quote Bella, he doesn't hover.
Yeah.
You know? So, we love that in our dad. But, anyways, he's a cop.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's friends with the town. I don't know how to explain that.
Bella's personality is just awkward.
Yeah,
Period.
Bella's personality
Awkward.
is awkward. And that's just in the book, too. She's incredibly arrogant, which... I don't know if that was supposed to be on purpose, but she's like, I know this from science. Like, I don't know. It's just like everything she does. Like, she read Romeo and Juliet once and decided she was a scholar.
Yep.
You know? So it's like, but, you know, oh well.
Anyway, I think the main thing with the characters is that we were talking that the side characters are way better than the main characters.
Yeah, like Mike.
Yeah.
Mike is fantastic.
Yeah, they have more personality combined than all the main characters.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is kind of sad because I feel like Edward is so much better in the book.
He had a good potential to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, in the book, he's very charismatic. He's definitely a gentleman, which he is in the movie. But he was never, like, rude to people. Like, in the scene where they're talking to, that, like, front office lady, basically, to change classes, he was like, I guess I'll just have to endure it, and left. But in the book, he was like, I see that it's impossible. Thank you so much for trying to help me. And he left. There's moments, like, he was vulnerable in the book. Yeah. Like, whenever, here's the rant, ladies. Here's the rant for the crash. Listen, it was so much more meaningful in the book, and here's why. So, whenever the whole crash thing happens, it almost hits Bella, whatever, but Edward stays with her, and he's, like, holding her, trying to comfort her, and he's like, please don't tell anyone I did this. Like, he was very vulnerable to her. He was like, please, and, like, just pretend. But in the movie, he's just like, I'm gonna stare at you intensely, and I'm gonna hop right out of here.
For someone who's been alive for so long, you think he'd have more like insight, more just like social cue.
Right. Which,
I don't know.
I mean, at the same time, I feel like it would be like okay for him to be a little awkward because I mean, he constantly is seeing trends change and like lingo change, because it's like from, if you see like our parents and us, like our lingo's completely different.
Yes.
Like they don't know anything that we're talking about. Like we're like, it's a vine, they're like, what's a vine, you know? So I mean, I can see where he's like kind of like awkward and quiet, but I don't know, they kind of butchered his character in the movie, but not knocking the actor. It's just like they really cut out like the most important scenes in the movie. Anyways,
so now we're going to talk. So we found that the timing of every scene is kind of weird because some scenes that aren't very important tend to drag on, and some scenes that should have had more emphasis are cut really short.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know what we're talking about, Taylor?
So we're very awkward.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention.
There's like a one-liner, and then they'd have like a weird action like sequence or something, and then they just cut to a weird transition.
I agree. Like there's a lot of times where there would just be a random montage, and it's like I kind of wish that they wouldn't have cut into a montage because we were just getting to the character development. Because I feel like people who haven't read the book are going to be hella confused. They're like, well, like you said, whenever it cut to a montage of them talking, Martha had said, I really wish I knew what they were talking about. Yeah. And because I read the book, I was like, I can tell you, but
it's hard to care for their relationship when you just don't know, like, there's no growth in either character.
Yeah, so the book's definitely better. So if you have an awful opinion on Twilight, I definitely, I recommend reading the book first, and then you can knock it, you know? And then you can be like, oh yeah, that was trash. But until you do research, because some people will say that it's trash without even knowing anything about it. Yeah. So, you know, don't be that person. And let's go into the long talk of action sequences.
Yes, and Taylor knows.
Not a lot. I just knew they were like
Just describe how you were feeling in that moment.
They were just bad.
So, describe the exact scene that you're talking about.
Yeah, describe like the action sequences.
The fight with James.
Okay, so what was weird about the fight with James? Where were they?
It was in the ballet studio. It's with all the mirrors and a bunch of glass. I don't know, it was just short, and they didn't really fight. They just pushed each other. Right. And then the scene ended so fast, too.
Right. Which, I mean, I completely agree. It was kind of awkward, because it's, like, such a big build-up for kind of, like, just like anticlimactic. That's what I was looking for. Just like an anticlimactic ending.
I feel like they relied too much on like editing it in later to actually like the wiring and like all that in every action sequence that they don't really take the time to think. They're like, oh, if it's bad, we can just edit it to be better. Because
Twilight did not have a big budget. So they often had to use wires for, like, if they're jumping around in the woods or if Edward's running really fast, then they'd all just be attached to wires. So it would look, it looks incredibly goofy because their legs aren't matching up to, like, the speed at which they're going. So it's just, like, kind of throws the whole mood off, which is unfortunate because I feel like that's kind of one of the things that makes Twilight so cool is that it's, like, you know, she's going through, as a teenager, being like, oh my god, we're, like, zooming through the woods. Not like, oh my god, that looks ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, it just...
Yeah, so... That's definitely one of the action sequences that I think was just weird. And then there's a lot of, like, one-liners in the action sequences, which is the antagonists at the beginning of the movie were hunting, and they get one of Charlie's friends and kill him, basically. But the lines that were placed in there were incredibly...
like, oh, you're my next meal or something.
Yeah, it was, like... There was just weird one-liners where it was, like... Was that scene actually necessary? There are good points of this movie, as much as we're bashing it right now. I think if it would have
been rearranged, and I don't know, it could have been better. But the length of the clips and then the unimportant scenes, just no.
Yeah, it definitely made the audience confused, right? So yeah, that's definitely something that I would put
or like the emphasis on their eyes, like they don't explain that. And as someone who hasn't read the book, it was super confusing. But Nicole has, and so she could understand it. but that was because only she had read the book.
Right. Because that was something, like, we were watching it, and Martha had made a comment. She was like, someone has an eye fetish. And I was like, first of all, that's hilarious. But it's actually, like, it has meaning. I don't know. They took off a lot of explanation. Like, they gave you what happened in the book, but then it doesn't go into a later scene where they're explaining why it happened, you know? Which is unfortunate. Because there's, like, a lot of things where it's a good backstory. Because with the eyes, it's, like... it's almost like a mood ring for vampires. Is that like whenever it's like gold, you know they're in a good mood, you're safe. If they're black, then it means that like they're thirsty or like in a hunting mood, whatever. And then if they're red, it means they're bad vampires because they drink human blood.
Yeah, but they never explain that, so it's very confusing. It's
just a lot. I feel like they relied heavily on like, oh, I'm sure people will understand.
Yeah.
I
think a majority of people haven't read the books, to be honest. Especially people who are just now watching it for the first time.
Right.
So
people are just like, this is awkward. And it's like, wait, just give it a chance. But how do you feel about that? Taylor, would you... Basically, would you watch this movie again?
No.
Why?
No, okay.
I don't like movies. I feel like I use my time.
Would you willingly...
Girl, no, we're not asking you if you would just watch a movie. Like, okay, so maybe that's like a... So that's like...
Like for the feels?
Like if you wanted to sit down and you just wanted to watch it again.
No.
Okay, why?
Would you watch a second one, like, willingly? If it wasn't for the podcast?
No.
Okay, why?
I just don't want to, you know?
Yeah, explain why.
That's my reason!
So what makes you not want to do it?
Is it just because it's not like your typical movie, or you don't like the movie?
Or is it just like they're movies and you don't like to watch movies?
The movies that I don't like to watch movies.
Okay, yeah.
This is ironic, because this podcast is movies.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess we should say that Taylor likes shows, I guess.
Yeah. Which is harder to review, but don't worry, people. We are going to cater to our friends' needs.
We are
going to watch a movie. Exactly.
Suggestions.
We have an email that's in our description. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. Tell us what do you think we should review. Or if you're watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify, follow, like, whatever.
I am begging.
Yeah. You're begging? Yeah, we're on our knees. We're pleading.
I'm desperate.
We need 50 cents. No. So, okay. Let's talk about the real drama. The real reason people don't like this, which is basically a plot point. So, their toxic relationship. So, what do you define as a toxic relationship? Okay, so...
Yeah, I have a lot.
Yeah, Martha. Why don't you go in with your definition?
As an intro to psychology major, flex.
Flex, if you have any marital problems, hit up Martha.
Toxic relationships don't have to just be, like, physical, you know? It can also be mentally and emotionally, like, abusive in a way, and verbally. Or manipulative. And I think that they both, in a way, the communication is just lacking.
Yeah.
Like, and it makes it toxic. They come from very different places, and they never communicate what they want out of the relationship. And so, it's toxic in that sense. Wow. And that, in order to be with him, she has to leave everyone else behind.
Right.
So she's, like, becomes part of him. She can't be herself. Anyway.
Wow, that was fantastic. I feel like I just got a lesson. Okay, so there's a lot of things that I think are wrong with the relationship, especially something that I noticed throughout the book and the movie is that Edward kind of has like a bipolar personality because one minute they can be very like kind to each other, they're enjoying the moment, and then the next Edward's just pissed. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like Bella has to constantly walk on eggshells to make Edward happy, which I think, in a way, would you consider that toxic? Yeah, so definitely. If you're constantly walking on eggshells, I feel like...
And it's become very codependent, where she just can't be without him.
Exactly. Like which kind of plays into the next movie of her not being without him, because basically it's just, like, sends her down a giant depression bubble, which we will get into later, but, like, in the next episode or whatever. But, yeah, it's just not good if you're constantly finding yourself that you can't be your own person. Like, you have to be with that person in order to be happy.
Because all of Bella is based off her interactions with other people and, like, how she sees herself with other people. Like, how she views her friend, like, how she thinks her friends look at her, how other people look at her. And that's a really negative thing, because she has no identity for herself.
Right. Like, I mean, even whenever they, like, started, like, whenever they pulled up to their school together, like, her friends automatically were like, that's kind of weird.
Yes.
Like, they're like, we don't like this for you, Bella. But she just kind of ignores it. Because it's like, she's willing to lose, like you said, she's willing to give up literally everything to be with this man. Like, even her life,
it's sad, because,
actually.
like, if that's, like, her view of, like, love.
Right.
You know?
Which is, like, I don't know. I just don't, yeah. It's just toxic in some ways.
And I feel like they're promoting it pretty heavily without addressing it, which is not...
Right, and we have to address the fact that Edward would watch her in her sleep.
Yes, like, that's creepy.
That is creepy. It's... I mean, okay.
No matter what time period you're in, the context, never watch someone sleep.
It's just weird, and I feel like, what's your opinion on that? Like, what did you feel when he was like, I watch you sleep? What were you thinking?
Same as you guys. I thought it was weird.
Right. So it's like...
I feel like, if you're like, oh, like a married couple, like 60 years going strong, you're like, oh, like, let me look at my wife in the morning when she wakes up.
Right.
Like, that's different. We're just, like, staring at them.
Okay, people, let's talk about the difference. If you are sleeping next to a person, I believe, you know what, it's okay to, like, watch them for a second.
If you're not doing it really, like, intensely, it's okay.
Right. If you climb into their bedroom unknowingly and watch them sleep, that is called a stalker.
Yeah.
Not only a stalker, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna spend some time in prison. So if you're planning to do that because you think it's cute, it's not
unhealthy, because Bella's reaction to everything is just so, like, normal. Like, if that's what she thinks is normal, then
right. That's it.
That's
like,
kind of scary.
Her head is definitely in the clouds, because she's always like, oh, well, okay, so you can read minds, but you can't read mine. So is something wrong with me? Instead of being like, hold up, bro, you can read minds? Like, I feel like
there's a lot of things that I think we need to talk about Bella just by herself.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a whole new category. Like, even the actress we need to talk about.
Yeah. So Kristen Stewart?
Yeah.
I really like Kristen Stewart.
Really?
And I think she's done some good movies.
What are some movies that you love her in?
She did... Charlie's Angels wasn't that great. But, I mean, it's okay. And then she does really good on SNL.
Oh, really?
Yes. She's in SNL a couple times. And she's funny. Like, she's actually funny. She has a personality.
Unlike how she plays Bella. Which is okay, because you have to remember that Twilight was made in, like, 2007.
That was her breakout role,
yeah,
I guess.
It's your breakout role. She's still learning the ropes, so don't judge just because of
I think she made Bella
series.
What Bella is. I don't think Bella was written that way. I think it's just Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, she's very twitchy. She's just very twitchy, and she doesn't have very natural reactions. I mean, just as, like, flinching or, like, biting your lip or whatever, but also reactions to situations.
Yeah, like, she's, like, trying to cut off her emotions almost, and that's kind of another thing.
Yeah.
Like, she just doesn't let herself feel.
Right. You know what? I totally agree with that. And I feel like that's why people don't like it so much, because it's like, I feel like people like TV shows and movies when you truly know who they are.
You can relate to in some way, and there's nothing relatable about this movie.
Right.
Like,
it's like,
except for the side characters, which makes them likable.
Yeah, exactly. People, I don't know, they're able to laugh and, like, kind of relax when the whole group is there. But whenever it's just Bella and Edward, it kind of feels almost tense.
Like scripted, like, just, like, intense.
Yeah, which, I mean, it makes sense for the movie because Edward is constantly resisting to bite her, but I don't know, it's something about being able to relax while watching a movie that you're like, that really makes you enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's just one thing that's definitely missing from the movie.
I also feel like this kind of goes into editing, but the way that they edit it, it's like documentary style editing.
It does, yeah.
You never get to see them together. It's like one face or the other face.
Right.
You can never see them, like, really truly together.
And I think that's why people also can't enjoy it, because there's never that closeness or, like, a relationship building, you know? So it's like, I definitely agree. Like, it's always, they do a lot of close-ups.
Yeah.
So
it's a little weird, and, like, weird spin arounds and
which, I mean, okay, this is kind of biased, but I get motion sickness pretty quickly, and that stuff kind of like throws me for a loop, especially if it's like spinning in a circle for no reason. Like, I understand if the context was like she was just bitten by a vampire, like obviously everything's disoriented, it would be spinning because the audience would be feeling the same thing as Bella was. But in a situation where they're just sitting in the meadow, it doesn't feel called for, almost. Do you agree with that, Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're so out of pocket, I guess. Every scene is just like, I don't get it. It's so, I get it that the movie's not supposed to be, like, real, because you got vampires and werewolves, but I think it's just, like, even the social context, it's not normal.
It just needs to be relatable, I think.
Yeah. I think there are ways you can mix that supernatural element with normal, everyday situations. It's...
Like the TV show Supernatural. Yeah.
Let's give a round of applause for Supernatural.
Woo! I've never seen, like, a full episode, but I agree. My mom would love that.
Yeah. Hey, Queen.
Yeah, my mom needed to be shouted out at least once today. Let's talk about the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So, Taylor, you have...
As someone with a very different music taste.
Yeah. So, Martha and I tend to have a very open mind when it comes to music, but I feel like you have a very specific liking. So, what did you think about the soundtrack?
I don't know. I'm very open-minded to music, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time.
Okay.
So, I've also heard the Twilight soundtrack before, so it didn't really bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So do you have a positive opinion of that? Or like if you were to study, would you put that music on to listen to it?
No.
No. Is there any situation you would put it on?
No.
So you don't like the soundtrack?
Okay.
I do, but...
It takes on a very classical approach.
Yeah.
I guess, is what I would say.
It's...
Instrumental, mostly.
A lot of it is relaxing, I feel like. Which, like, I could study to it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel like that's why people like it.
Yeah.
It's because that's one thing that's very praised with the Twilight series is the soundtracks. So,
I think that's kind of universal. Like, even people who don't like the movie are like, yeah, I can get with the soundtrack.
Right. Which I
Usually.
think is a really redeeming quality in a movie because...
Mm-hmm.
If
Usually
the
it's, like,
soundtrack-
the other way. Like, soundtracks are really bad.
Mm-hmm. Like, if the soundtracks are bad, you're not going to have a very positive opinion of the movie. That's like, for my mother and I, we have a very controversial opinion where we don't like Django Unchained because of the ending music, because it's wrapped in a Western movie. It just didn't fit, and it made me upset. So, with Twilight, I feel like it really matched the vibe. Yeah. I think that's what Twilight is. It's just purely vibe. Mm-hmm. And that's why people like it. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
It's just a vibe.
It's almost in a way cozy. And I can't explain it. Like, it could be someone killing each other, but it's like...
Fall
I like
vibes.
It. Yeah, fall vibes.
You know? And, I mean, it can't help because there's a blue tint. The soundtrack is very relaxing, but at the same time...
And, like, the scenery, I guess. They choose a great location. Is it actually filmed in Washington?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an actual place. It's Forks, Washington.
Oh. I didn't know if they just, like, filmed it somewhere else and then said it was Washington.
Yeah. No. Like, it's constantly rainy. It's exactly as how she describes it in the book, which is constantly, like, moss, wet, mud everywhere.
It just looks kind of fun.
It does. Right? Because sometimes, you know, if you live in a hot place 24/7, you're gonna, like, you see rain and you crave it, you know?
Yeah.
And the ocean and everything. So it's, like, kind of ideal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes it so cozy. Mm-hmm. I definitely like how you describe that. It's like, it is. It's like, it's definitely, for me, a comfort movie.
Yeah. I get it. I see it. Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like, do you have any contradictions to that? Where you're like, oh, I don't agree? No?
I mean, I see why it's a comfort movie.
Yeah? So is there any part of it that you did feel positive about? Or did you just absolutely hate this movie? Like, was it a dog pile?
Okay, let's just say, were your expectations...
Met.
Yeah, met. When you came
Was it worse than you thought it was going to be?
I didn't come with any expectations.
Okay.
Because I forgot how the movie went. And I knew I didn't really like the movie before.
Right.
So, you know.
So do you still have the same opinion as you did when you were 8?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what about it... Okay, so you agree with the cozy vibe, right? Okay. So, is there any contradictions you have with it being cozy? Like, is there parts of the movie where you're like, that makes me just, like, uncomfortable? Or that's like, oh, that makes me feel like that ruins the entire movie for me?
No.
No. Okay. Is there anything in the movie that you want to make any single comment on? Like, absolutely anything.
The whole movie, but, you know, it'll take a while.
Okay. So
I think the coziness is also made better with, like, the costumes. It's just, like, warm. It's always, like, they're wearing jackets and...
Mm-hmm. They're bundled up constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, it's freezing there all the time. Yeah. But, like, it just kind of reminds you, it's like, oh, man, I can't wait for fall, you know?
Yeah.
Like, when you're watching it, you just want to, like, cover yourself in a blanket, I feel like. So I definitely agree with that context. I mean, that's, okay, let's be real. That's why teenagers like it, is because it's a vibe and everyone hates it, and teenagers love to love things that people hate.
Exactly.
So there you go. If you weren't a teenager, chances are you probably won't like it, but if you're a mom, there's a good chance that you'll love it, okay? So, okay, we went through music, so let's talk about something that really isn't talked about, which is the author, because, of course, like we've mentioned millions of times, this is originally a book series. So, Martha, you have the most knowledge about this.
So, people made videos about this before, but the author, Stephenie Meyer, I don't know a lot about her, but she did have some controversial moments, and most of that surrounding that she didn't want a diverse cast. In the books, she doesn't have a very diverse range of characters, and as she worked on the movie, and it took a lot to get her to agree to this idea of a diverse cast, and so that stirred up a lot of controversy. And I guess just her whole person, like, she's just a little weird.
She is very eccentric. But you could see Stephenie Meyer's in a little cameo in the first Twilight when they're at the bar. She's like on tappy on her laptop. But yeah, I was reading in review or like an interview from Stephenie Meyer's, and she had said something about Edward, which she had said that if Edward were to show up, she would basically dump her husband for Edward, which there's a lot that we could talk about that's wrong with that. Like, Taylor, what do you think when you hear that? Like, seriously, like, what is your opinion on that?
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah.
I think I compare this a lot, but if you've ever read After and Anna Todd or seen the movies, they were a big deal.
Netflix.
It's kind of just the whole concept of this, like, adult woman just fantasizing about this, like, younger, not really young, but, like, this guy, and it's just a little weird.
Right.
It's a little strange.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when these romance movies or novels come out, you think, oh, that's cool, and then you look into it, and it's like the making's a bit creepy. Because it's like, I think it's weird that she would drop her husband, a real human being that she has had, you know, like, emotional contact with. She would dump him over Edward, which is a man that she created in her head. And also, he's not that great of a there are parts where it's like, oh, it's so sweet, and oh, I love that. But there are other parts where it's like, okay, that's a little weird. Like, the whole anger thing really sets me off, because it's like, what? Why are you angry? Like, you were just having a good time.
Yeah, I don't get. It's just, you're always living on the edge with him, and that's not always a good thing. I don't think.
Like, I don't.
And long term, like, if I don't know if I should say this, spoiler alert for the later movie.
No, you can.
Okay, so Bella becomes a vampire,
right?
And that makes it okay, I guess, because then they remain at that same, like, constant age or whatever.
Right.
But if not, it would have been weird.
Right.
She would have aged. He wouldn't.
Which is actually mentioned in New Moon.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, we will definitely talk about that if we do another episode of this, which, if Taylor doesn't want to, we don't have to. Or we could always space that out for next time.
I think this is relevant because it's Halloween, you know, fun.
It's definitely a scary movie, in some contexts, like watching a person sleep. That's terrifying to me. Or getting bit by some crazy person. I don't care if you're a vampire or anything. I'd be terrified, you know? So I definitely agree with that. Okay, so that was basically our first episode of reviewing a movie. Now this is Twilight, the first movie out of like 5 or something. So I definitely, from my opinion, I would say at least watch the movie before you fully judge it, because a lot of the times people have different opinions than I do, and I end up actually liking the movie. So I, Nicole, would recommend it. Now, Taylor, would you recommend this movie?
it depends on, like, if you've never seen it before, I would recommend it to you,
Right.
Nicole.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that, Martha.
Oh, yeah, I would recommend it. I think it's a bad thing to start judging it before, because
Right.
even I did that, and I don't know, I came in and I was surprised that I actually did kind of like it, and
Yeah.
I think you should watch it before deciding if you don't like it or not.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree.
I would recommend it. Yeah.
So if you happen to be a teenager who loves teenage angst, a good vibe, and rain, I recommend Twilight. So yeah, if you don't agree with the author's views, which I mean, obviously no one wants to, so if you're sensitive about that, then definitely don't check it out. But at least you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of actors in here who I think people like: Anna Kendrick, Taylor Lautner, Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart,
A lot. Mike.
Do it for Mike.
Yeah, do it for Mike. Blonde-haired baddie.
Yeah. So do you guys want to do like a movie recommendation like we did last time?
Oh, yeah, okay. So, speaking of Halloween, let's do horror movie recommendations.
Ooh.
I definitely recommend my favorite slasher film, Scream.
Ooh.
So, the very first one. That one's my favorite. There's great plot twists. I mean, it's a little predictable, but if you're just wanting to have that classic slasher feel, then I definitely recommend it. I love it, honestly. And Drew Barrymore's in it. So
Ooh, she is?
Yeah, for
did
the
not know
very
that.
first scene. So, Martha, what's
that's a
your
good one.
recommendation?
I would say The Perfection. That's
The
not
Perfection.
the act. It's kind of eerie and more, not really scary, but more like psychologically disturbing.
Oh, really?
And it's on Netflix, and it's a really good movie. I feel like extremely underrated, but good. And Scream. So it's not really more Halloween, but it is horror and kind of
Right.
scary.
So it's like a psychological thriller,
Yeah.
though.
Mhm.
Okay. So, Taylor, go ahead.
My movie's called Grave Encounters.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Okay.
so what type of genre? Like, what?
Paranormal.
Paranormal. Oh, we
Ooh, we
love
love
that.
It's kind of bad, but you know.
Oh,
You know what?
Ba-
Everyone
bad
has a
horror
guilty
movies are the
pleasure
best.
movie. Exactly. That's like Twilight, and that's a great way to end it.
thank you for listening.
Yes, if you enjoyed it, leave a like on any platform, honestly. And if you have any criticisms, you can email us or leave a comment.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Where the hell have you been, Luca?